and you have to be doing a lot of things for people to want to come to work for you.
So aside from teachers' qualifications, do you look for any specific qualities in a good teacher?
Despite the popular belief that money is the drive, it's not always a drive. Job satisfaction is the most important thing. And motivating, this is probably my biggest weakness as a leader, as a manager. I've never been good at saying, oh, great job. In my experience, I understood one thing. You don't keep working in the same place for the company, you keep working for the person. If you are the person they want to work for, they will work. Because as soon as you go and he comes, they might leave.
Every time we have a staff meeting or training, I'm training them, I'm telling them, we're not here hiring teachers, we don't need teachers, we want problem solvers. Students come to you with their problems, I come to you with my problems, and I need you to help me figure out those, sort out those problems, and that's what you're getting paid for.
What am I gonna do if I see no way out? You have to take a step back and think, are you being emotional or are you being practical? If you are emotional saying, oh, but this is my baby, this is my project, I started it, I cannot just give up on it, but it's not going anywhere, then it's wrong. You have to be practical in business. It's blinded by the fight scenes because everybody thinks Matrix is just a fight movie. It's a kung fu movie. It's not. It is there, but that's made for people to watch. Behind it, there is a lot of philosophy in Matrix.
Every time when I feel overwhelmed and I feel like the world is too big, I think of myself as Superman. I'm in that locker room, and I have to find that island and swim toward it.
If I had $1 for everyone that told me not to open a school, I'd have a lot of money.
Hey folks, hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Astra Muse, and I'm your host Muhammad Ali here again. Today I got a very special guest in the house, and that's Mr. Firdavs Navruzov. He's a great educator who's been involved in teaching for more than a decade. On top of that, he is currently heading one of the presidential schools in Uzbekistan, in Bukhara here, and I can't wait to ask him some questions about teaching, entrepreneurship, and all of that. So if you guys are interested, please keep watching.
Just for personal reference, how do you train teachers A-levels? Is it something you can do online?
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
you can?
Yeah. So there are special Cambridge courses. You can take them. I don't remember how long the courses are, probably a couple of months. So there are different levels of this. So if you have levels 1, 2, 3, and so on, which I need to check because I don't remember. But if you can do that, you get a certificate that you're an A-level teacher. And you get the knowledge, of course. It's not just a certificate. It's useless if you can't teach it. But this certificate is not very easy to get. You have to study, you have to do the work. And if you get it, you're a certified A-level teacher.
Without having to travel to another city or country, you can get training on A-levels online. Yeah. Well,
there is online course.
If that's the case, I think it's very plausible that we can train some English teachers A-levels and then figure out the logistics of the program and then implement it here.
Well, you can't teach English teachers sciences. It's much harder than teaching science teachers English. Because a physics teacher is a way different world. Like you and me, we're not good at math. Studying math at that level is going to be 10 times harder than if you teach a math teacher English and then A-level, it's much easier and much more effective.
And here's what I think. We actually have a lot of medical students take the IELTS test now, and for some reason they're also after 8, when in fact 6.5 is more than enough for them to get into their dream master's program. They come here wanting to get 8, and because of the hype and everything, and I don't think they're all end up going abroad. I don't think they're all going to get into a master's program. And if they consider a career change from medicine to teaching, then they might take up A levels, get retrained, and start teaching this program here at local schools and universities.
Yes, I agree with you. I mean, only probably like 5-6% of those teachers will go abroad to do masters, because again, medicine, getting a scholarship in medicine abroad is highly unlikely, because it's a very specific kind of major science, so it's difficult. But those teachers are your probably go-to teachers, because they know biology well, they know chemistry well, and the hardest teachers to find are biology, chemistry, and computer science. So if you can train them, you can invite them to start teaching. And the presidential schools are only a start. It's in 5-10 years, there will be a lot of schools introducing Cambridge or any other international program. So there will be a need for English-speaking science teachers. There will be a need for them, but of course not an aide. A medical student doesn't need an aide to understand medicine in English.
But to make sure there's no barriers in communication, they're supposed to have it. They're, I think, naturally required to have a decent level of English.
Yeah. So, well, again, this is not IELTS, but this is like a specific type of language, like medical language. If they study medical English, they, even with the 6, they can understand that. But even if they have IELTS 8, if they don't know medical language, it's pointless.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Right. That's interesting, getting to know about all these different things that I didn't know before, and I'm sure our audience would like to know more about this. And can we go back to our conversation about learning English?
Yep.
Since the majority of our subscribers here, they tune in to learn more about learning English.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear from you your approach to teaching English and learning English, because you said that you weren't happy about the fact that most teachers at the time took shallow approach to teaching English, and they were more test oriented in their methodology. So how was your approach different from other teachers' approach? So how did you try to make the process of learning English more relatable and practical?
Yes. Well, first, I don't want to take a jab at anyone. They taught what they taught and how they taught, probably because they knew how to do this at that time. And from business perspective, I understand that you have to teach to test to get more students. That's understandable. But my philosophy is, because again, as I said, I went abroad, and at the beginning, before even we started this podcast, we chatted about TESOL, how university professors don't like IELTS or TOEFL, because they think that standardized tests are shallow, they are soulless. So they prefer assessment that evaluates you from different perspectives and gives you chances to understand your mistake. Is like one of the main principles of assessment is washback, like feedback you get after you do the assessment. And IELTS and TOEFL or any other standardized test, they don't provide that. You know the score, you don't know where you made a mistake. So you don't get feedback from what you've done. So there's no learning going on after the assessment. And the assessment should not be the end. The assessment should be means to learning even more. That's why you do mock tests, guys. You do mock tests, you check. And my belief was, you have to teach the language and you have to teach it from different perspectives. It's not IELTS. The end result is to go abroad, to be able to communicate, to understand academic texts, and to understand people.
So what's something you do in the classroom to make the learning process more interesting, or say not non-conventional, not teach it in a more fun, interesting way? What's something you would normally do?
Well, I'm not going to say anything new, because different teachers use different methods at different times. what I loved doing was giving them real language. I never gave them at the beginning an IELTS text to translate. Like I know a teacher who translated from English into Uzbek and from Uzbek into English to understand better. I don't understand that. I gave them real language. I gave them literature. I gave them documentaries. I gave them podcasts, and then we just communicated. I hated giving them vocabulary, and I hated asking that vocabulary, because deep down you and I understand that giving lists of vocabulary and asking that doesn't work. That might work like 5%, but they forget because it's not in the context. So authentic language is much more useful, because that's how I learned. Maybe that's why I think like this. I can't say I'm right. I'm just saying my opinion as a former English teacher. I learned English through authentic language, and I believe that if I give authentic language to kids, they learn better. Students, they learn better. I can't say whether my classes were interesting or not. They are the judges of it, and I was pretty strict. I was never very liberal with my students, but I believe that was the goal. Like you have to be strict, because anyone is lazy. Even I'm lazy. So if I don't control, if I don't act, let's say, serious, they don't take it serious. So that's why probably among the things that I loved doing with my kids, with my students, it was documentaries, it was books, different kinds of literature, and different kinds of podcasts.
Yeah. I'm going to play the devil's advocate here a little and say, even though the approach you're suggesting is fun, interesting, and allows students more exposure to language, it's, in my mind, simply hard to track the progress the students making, and not exactly scalable. So because when students come to sit the IELTS test, they come with target in mind, and they want to, and they have a deadline usually. So it's like a 6 months deadline, or a 10 months deadline, or a year deadline, and they want to be able to see their language skills improve over time. And if they're not if they're not following some kind of a routine where they're translating passages, like you said, and I'm not a big fan of getting students to translate from English to Uzbek. We actually very much encourage students here to translate from English to English, like use synonyms to interpret the text. But anyway, back to my point. If we're not getting them to interpret passages from a textbook and then testing them on what they interpreted, the vocabulary they learned, I feel like it might take ages to take the other route, the thing you were suggesting, where they watch podcasts. We do encourage them to actually watch podcasts and documentaries, but as supplementary.
Yep.
Supplementary stuff.
Oh, well, no, I didn't tell you the whole thing that I did. You asked what made it interesting. There was the grinding. I'm not saying there was no grinding. I'm not saying there was no regular assessments. There were those things. But those things were there, even though I hated them, I still did them, because I had to do them. But when I had a chance, I tried to be a language teacher than an IELTS teacher, because probably it's also my background. I'm a literature major, so for me, stories are much more interesting than articles, let's say. But and I completely agree with you. Without scalability, without regular monitoring, it's not going to work. And I did do those things. I just hated doing them. And I'm sure they hated doing it too. But I never showed it to them. I said, if you have to write, let's say, 10 essays by tomorrow. That's your assignment. And if you don't, I'm going to make it 20.
Okay.
So they did. And they did the tests. They did the analysis. I never made them translate from English into Uzbek or from English into English. But we did discuss those texts, reading texts. They just were not my favorite.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get it.
I guess you can call the necessary evil.
Yeah.
Like something I do here, I'm not personally a fan of, is get students to memorize sample answers. And they sometimes hate me for that because I make them learn it word for word. And the reason why I do it is because I believe it's the shortcut to learning a language. Rather than learn grammar and vocabulary and then get some ideas and try mixing them all and then find yourself making a bunch of mistakes because you simply don't know how to mix them well. Just learns it from a credible source.
Yeah.
And over time, through repetition, those expressions and phrases become yours. You start internalizing their pattern, their structures.
Yeah.
And we try doing it in a mindful manner. I get them to look up the words from the answers they're learning and video record their response and rehearse their lines with their friends out loud a few times. But still, because there is memorization, a lot of memorization there, they hate it so much. Yeah. And I wish I could think of something better, but unless you're in an English-speaking country where you're naturally exposed to this language, I can't really think of any more natural ways to learning English.
No, and I respect that. And you're doing something right. In a way that the results of your students are showing. I'm not trying to flatter you. I'm just telling you that you do this and you're showing good results. That must be the right way. I don't know. I cannot suggest you any other way to do this. As you said, we live in an EFL context, so that this is highly difficult to find someone to communicate except your course mates. So learning samples is effective. I understand the hate. I hate it too, but it is effective. But there is one more thing that we're teaching different people. And it's probably, as you get older, you say the same thing. Everyone says the same thing. But 5 years ago, students were different. They were more focused. They were more hardworking than now. I'm not trying everyone. I'm not trying to say everyone. But nowadays, I can see that students are not as hardworking as they used to be. Probably it may be the internet, maybe that they understood that they don't need to work as hard. So we are teaching different people. Like I used to teach a different group of students than you do. And again, as I'm repeating myself, what you're doing is working, so you probably should keep doing it until you find an alternative. Yeah. I just mentioned my way of doing things and my opinion of that time. Maybe now, if I started teaching, I would do the same. Yeah. To get better results. So.
Would you like to get back to teaching IELTS?
Not right now. Not right now.
But it's not off the table. It's not.
Teaching is never off the table because I love teaching, and probably now, even if I go into teaching, I will teach something different. Not IELTS, but I will teach school management. I will teach classroom management.
Oh, great! I'll be the first person to sign up.
Because this is a different world, and I love doing what I'm doing right now. And school management is very important right now for Uzbekistan, because principals are the main people at schools. And for a long time, we've been ignoring the role of principals at schools. And I don't want to speak badly, but that's where we are. We are where we are because of this, because we've ignored school management for a long time.
Funny you say that, because I have this question list prepared for you today on staff management and school management. So I got it right here on my question list. So what do you say we dive a little deeper into school management, starting off with, I think everything starts with the recruitment process. So what's your approach to hiring teachers? Well, what are some criteria you use when recruiting people?
I have a procedure. I can't use it, but I have a procedure. And the reason why I can't use it is the staff shortage. If you want to have star teachers, you have to pay a lot. But at the same time, those star teachers are unmanageable. That's one of the things you have to know as a CEO of this language school. When you hire the best teachers in Bukhara, they will not be manageable, because they will think that what they have been doing is the right thing, so your way is not going to work for them. But if you hire, let's say, B-list teachers, they're easier to teach, they're easier to manage, and you can show them your vision, and you can go with them to that vision. The recruitment process, which I want for my school, let's say for the private school, is very similar to the recruitment process at the presidential school. So you do the subject test, let's say math. If it's a math teacher, you do the subject test, then you have an interview with the teacher, and then you have a demo class. And if everything is fine, you give the offer, the teacher takes the offer, and that's all. And you have a 3-month probation period to see whether the teacher is as good as they showed themselves to be on the interview and in the demo class. So that's the recruitment. But headhunting is a huge problem for me. It's a huge problem for Bukhara. We don't have headhunters. I can advertise a job position, but that's all.
So if you want to go looking for good teachers, you can't find any? Is that what you mean? Or
We
you
need
don't have-
headhunters. You cannot go. You cannot physically have time to do everything. So we don't have HR people in Bukhara. We have отдел кадров. That's a different old Soviet Union system. If we want to have HRs, we have to train HRs, but we don't have courses of HRs in Bukhara. So an HR would be the person who would hunt heads for you. And then you would just do the procedure that I explained. What we need right now is an HR company or HR teaching course that would help us headhunt good teachers. How are you going to do it? Just advertise on internet? That's not going to work.
I actually have a better solution for that.
Okay.
You just have to be the best at what you do, and people come looking for you.
Yes.
Which is, so if you're the
Yes.
if you're the only game in town, or if you're the best game in town, then you don't have to go begging people to come and work for you. They're just gonna come and work for you.
That's not scalable though. You see? Because if it's a school, you can't be good at if it's a language school, you can be good at English, and the English teachers will come to you. But if it's a school, you have to be good at everything. You have to be paying more, and you have to be doing a lot of things for people to want to come to work for you. And we're not there yet as a school. I get it. That's why I'm working hard on it. But I can't wait until we become that best school. You see, I have to find teachers right now, good teachers that want to grow. That is the most important thing if you want to grow.
See. So aside from teachers' qualifications, do you look for any specific qualities in a good teacher? So in your terms, in your words, what are some traits, personal traits of an excellent teacher?
You have to love kids. If you don't love kids, it doesn't matter what knowledge you have. I mean, as a teacher, you know that you have to love teaching and you have to love your students. If you don't, it doesn't matter what IELTS score you got. You can't teach it. And at a school, it's even more serious because you have the kids the whole day. So you have to be okay with them doing bad things because they're kids. And things like that. If you don't love the kids, you can't be a teacher at school because it's a very different context. Apart from this, there are a number of different things that I would look at a teacher, like stability. You have to be stable because the kids can be naughty. And communicative skills. That's very important because you have to communicate with your colleagues, we have to communicate with the school admin, we have to communicate with parents, which is the most difficult part, because parents can be very capricious.
So if there are any problems with your teachers, how do you go about solving those problems? Do you have like any set procedure for that?
Okay.
Staff problem. Like how do you go about, say, firing teachers? And I know it's one of the hardest things to do as a principal, to do as a recruiter. So,
it is even harder for a school because if it's middle of the year, you're jeopardizing both the teacher and yourself, because the teacher is gonna have a hard time finding another job because it's the middle of the year, and you will have a hard time finding a teacher because it's the middle of the year. So sometimes you have to have a talk with the teacher, and I did have that recently, and I explained to the teacher that if you're planning to leave, you gotta leave now. But if you're planning to stay, you have to dedicate. You have to play the role. And if you're planning to leave at the end of the year, right now you shouldn't think about it. Because if you think about it, you're jeopardizing the kids' future.
Education. Yeah.
Education. That's the most important part. You may have personal problems, but that's everyone. Everybody has them. And that's why I said that you have to love your job and you have to love the kids.
So you first try to talk some sense to them.
Definitely.
And hope that they'll come along.
Definitely. If it's not something very serious, like hitting a child, like that, I don't tolerate that. Cursing at a child, I don't tolerate that, because in all my years of teaching, I've never hit a student. I've never used any bad language towards a student. I've never even called a student stupid. That because that's teaching, to me personally. So if it's not something like this, if it's not the safety of the student or a humiliation of a student, for example, I never fire a teacher at once. I always have a talk with them. But I'm growing. When you ask the question, I can't say that I'm a professional because I'm growing. I'm learning how to set up policies and procedures in place to find out the problem with the teacher early on and then deal with it.
See. How about staff motivation? So do you do anything in the way of motivating your staff, or is it always monetary?
Okay, that's a good question.
Other ways other than, like, say, money or bonus to motivate your staff, which is something I'm personally been trying to figure out, because I feel like it's never enough. You give them bonus or a pay rise, they're gonna wanna make more. So can you think of, or do you have other ways of motivating staff than just paying them some extra cash?
Despite the popular belief that money is the drive, it's not always a drive. Job satisfaction is the most important thing. And motivating, this is probably my biggest weakness as a leader, as a manager. I've never been good at saying, oh, great job, good job. I've never been able to force myself to say this. It's not because I think they didn't do a good job. No, I think they did a good job, but I cannot voice that.
Why not? What's the problem?
I have no idea. I never understood this, because even when I used to teach students.
Oh, I see. Maybe because you don't want them to get too comfortable. You don't want them to get complacent.
No.
Because if you praise them too much, they get all pampered and they think they're one of your favorites, and they might take it for granted. And you don't want that happening.
No, because it's not. Sometimes I see that in the eyes of a student or of a staff member, that they want to be praised. They want the attention, and it bothers me that I cannot give that. It's probably because I don't like compliments. When people give me compliments, I feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Probably that's why I cannot do the same, but I don't know the reason behind it, and I would love to know the reason behind it. But in terms of motivation, I can tell you the science behind it, because I've read about it. There is a very interesting research done by Gallup. Gallup is a research organization. So what they did is they they did a research on job satisfaction, and they found out that 70% of people in companies around the world don't want to work. They're not satisfied with their job. It's not like they don't want to work. They're not satisfied with their job. And they're already mentally left the job. And only 30% are actually those that want to work and want to stay in the same company. And if you want to see whether your teacher is thinking about leaving, ask them the simplest question. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? If they don't say with you, then you know that it's going. And I understand that you cannot expect them all to stay here, but if they don't even have you in mind when they're talking about in 5 years, then it's...
Yeah, 5 years sounds like a long time period. Maybe like 2 years, or where do you see yourself next 6 months?
You can go smaller.
Yeah.
6 months, they will probably stay here. But 2 years, yeah. And it's probably because of the society now, we like jumping jobs. Like, I love jumping jobs. I believe that if I stay somewhere for too long, I'm going to get too comfortable. And I'm not going to work as efficiently as I should. So I love changing jobs, and I love challenges. But we're talking about a big number here, 70% of people not satisfied with their jobs. So how do you get them? And their research goes on and on about the different thing. And among them, there is attention by the management, monetary bonuses, and simply colleagues. They stay because they love their colleagues. But in my experience, I understood one thing. You don't keep working in the same place for the company, you keep working for the person. If you are the person they want to work for, they will work. Because as soon as you go and he comes, they might leave. So that's probably one of the things I'm trying to do to become the person they want to work for, not to become a school they want to work for, but somebody like that. But I don't know how it works out. We'll see.
Yeah. That's true. So you're trying to set a good example. You're trying to be a role model for all the other teachers working there at your school. Someone they look up to. Someone they want to see themselves be in 2-3 years.
No, not probably
It's
that.
like a little chase. They're trying to catch up with you.
Maybe that's the dream. If your employees, and again at a school it's a bit different because you have people older than you and it's a bit uncomfortable. But if you have people working for you wanting to be like you, that's a huge compliment for you, because they believe in you. You know that they want to be like you. But that's not my aim per se. My main aim is for them to know that if they work for me, they're better than if they work for somebody else. And probably I should change the preposition here. Work with me, because when you keep saying work for me, people say...
It's just another boss.
Yes.
This is just another boss.
Yes.
Yeah,
so we'll see.
Yeah. We did a lot of talking about teachers. Now, let's talk a little about students now. So, how would you describe an excellent student? So, what are some qualities of a top-notch student? And I'm sure you have some adjectives in mind because you said you are now in charge of a school where you teach a bunch of bright and talented students. So what is one thing they all have in common? Is it their work ethics, or is it their ambition level, or is it their... so what aspect of their personality that make them an outlier?
I'll probably give a cliche answer, cliche in terms of Uzbek cliche, discipline. I believe that in everything, it's not only in learning, but in working, in life, if you have the discipline, then you're going to do good. So if those kids are disciplined, they're focused, and they can learn. It's a cliche from a principle to say this, because everybody's saying, oh, of course you want well-behaved kids. They're better to control. No, well-behaved kids or disciplined kids, they show up when you need them. They do the things you ask them, and they focus. But my other side says inquisitive. And unfortunately, these two things are not always, they are sometimes opposite. Because if you're disciplined, you're a do-gooder. So you follow the rules, that's all. But at the same time, if you're inquisitive, you're a leader. So
rebellious.
Yes.
Rebellious.
You ask questions, and you have critical thinking. So as soon as you ask the question, I was thinking like adjectives were running like, is it a do-gooder or a naughty, a lazy child? Because a lazy child is someone that will look for ways to do things in a more efficient way, in an easy way. So I would say if you have a drop of discipline and a drop of inquisitiveness, even bordering with, I don't remember the word in English, naglist.
You mean negligence?
No. It's
arrogance?
something like arrogance, like being brave enough.
Principled?
Yes.
Principled.
Being brave enough to ask the question even if you're not supposed to ask the question.
Like bold.
Bold? Let's say bold, yes. Bold is closer to what I meant. Like bold, that would be the best student to me. And with a lot of kids, it's one or the other thing. They're either disciplined, but they're followers. They're not going to be leaders. But the bold ones, they're leaders, but they don't have the good knowledge.
So how do you nurture these qualities in students? Say you have a very disciplined student. How do you get them to be more inquisitive? Or say you have an inquisitive student, how do you get them to be more disciplined?
Throw them challenges. So if you have a disciplined child, throw him a challenge. A challenge that would make him think outside the box, that would make him question. If he's not asking questions, it's not good. You have to make him ask questions. And you have to be approachable. Like, that's too old. That's the very Soviet thing when a teacher is the center of attention and he's the decision maker and he's the God in the classroom. That's too old. You have to be approachable. Your students have to be able to challenge you, even your knowledge. And a lot of young teachers, unfortunately, they have this pride. They don't like it when students go at them. But that's the best thing. If they go at you, they learn. They learn better. So for disciplined, challenge just like this. For the bold, grinding them, like you said, forcing them to learn samples or translate the texts or any other kind of grind work, because they have to understand that you can't do without this. The boring stuff, the hard stuff, the menial job is something that will get you there. It's not the fun stuff. So I think so. Again, I feel like I'm talking like a professional or an expert in something.
That's a really good point. Like, I'm thinking here right now, as an educator, it's our job not only to teach them the subject matter, but also help them develop this well-balanced personality.
Yes.
Yeah, well-balanced behavior.
Yes.
So where they can wear different hats, be different people.
Yes, because I wanted to ask you a question as soon as you asked me a question about a student. I wanted to ask, it's more of a rhetorical question. What is the point of teaching? So what are your aims? Like, when you're saying a student, like, are you talking about an English student that wants to take IELTS? That's a different thing. If you're talking about a school child, that's a different thing. So what is our role, as you said, is to get the student to that destination. We're simply, and I used to say this a long time ago, we're simply a bus taking a student to the next bus stop. That's all. That's our role. And if we do that successfully, then we did a good job.
Yeah, that's mission accomplished.
Yes. From point A to point B. And I keep telling my teachers at staff meetings, and I think they're tired of me saying this. I always say that the only reason you're here is to get the student from point A to point B. That's the most important thing. That's what students need. That's what parents need. That's what I want. That's all.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes.
And you see, staff management, dealing with students, teaching, and heading a school is actually a lot more complicated than most people think. It's not as, based on this conversation we had here, there are so many things going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
We as educators, principals, teachers are in charge of, responsible for. And it's like solving a puzzle.
And it's very multifaceted. And I would say a lot of the time people think that, oh, he's the boss. He's probably sitting in his room, putting his feet on the table and just enjoying himself. I do that. It's not that I don't do that, but you have to do that because you have to do another thing. The biggest challenge for a principal, a manager, is problem solving. Because everybody will come to you with a problem.
Yeah.
Everybody. And you have to satisfy every single person that comes to you. Whether the teacher, student, parent, anyone. You have to be able to solve problems in a way that will satisfy all the parties involved. If you can't do that, then what's your point?
I can't agree more with what you're saying here, because this is actually what I'm trying to hammer home with our teachers. Every time we have a staff meeting or training, I'm training them. I'm telling them, we're not here hiring teachers. We don't need teachers. We want problem solvers. Students come to you with their problems. I come to you with my problems, and I need you to help me figure out those, sort out those problems. And that's what you're getting paid for. Not exactly coming into the classroom and teaching, because it's easy. Anyone can do that. Computers can do that. Students can just learn it online. So
it is now possible.
They need it because they have problems other than just learning. Sometimes they don't know how to stay productive. Sometimes they have trouble staying focused or disciplined. Sometimes they simply have they feel socially awkward. They don't know how to get along well with their peers, their group mates. So these are all these other problems related to education. Teachers should be as much involved in solving as their parents or anyone else.
And I agree. Probably the most, and I didn't think of it when you asked me, the most important skill for a person, any employee, it's not just a teacher, is problem solving. Like, generally, bosses don't want you to come to them with a problem. They want you to come with a solution. Come with a problem, but with a solution. And if they're okay with that solution, then go ahead and do it. So problem solving is the number one skill.
And as someone who calls the shots, as someone who's in charge, how does it feel to be in your position? Like, this segment of the podcast, we're going to talk a little about entrepreneurship, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So no problem.
How does it feel wearing different hats, being different people? How do you manage your time?
It's like running barefoot on glass. It's interesting. It's very challenging and it's very exciting. That's why I love my job. I do love my job because it gives you the meaning. It's something for you to get up, to rise in the morning. So in terms of entrepreneurship, let's not call it it's a startup. In terms of startup, you have to do everything all the time. You have to be responsible for everything. At the end of the day, if there is a problem with a student, if there is a problem with a sink in the toilet, if there is a problem with a glass in the classroom, it's you're responsible. That's what I understood. Like, because parents still blame the principal, because you are the person that should be managing everyone. So if, let's say, the teacher hit a child or did something wrong, why didn't you have a talk with the teacher earlier on to explain that this is not the right behavior? Or did I misunderstand your question? What was it?
You got it right. You got it right. You actually...
So you have to be responsible for everything, and you have to take that responsibility.
Yeah, juggling all these different tasks.
Yeah, I'm not trying to make it sound scary. It's, as I said, it's interesting because it's rewarding as well. Because at the end of the day, if your student is doing great, you also get the last reward. Like, they will say, oh, he has a great school, so his student is doing great. And sometimes the teacher is forgotten, but the head of the school is remembered. So that's why there is both sides. You sometimes get the blame, sometimes you get the reward. So it's a win-win for me.
Right. And what do you usually do, or what's your mental framework with when dealing with setbacks? Like when you see yourself stuck or facing a big problem, and you find yourself in a spot, in a situation where there's no way out. How do you overcome that?
Yesterday we had a chat with some students at the Bukhara State University. I was invited to have a chat about entrepreneurship in education. And they asked a similar question. And they asked in a way that, what do you do if your company is not growing, or if it's not working out? Or do you close it, or do you keep on? And you do both, depending on what the situation is. And right now I'm not talking as an educator, I'm talking as an entrepreneur. You have to evaluate the situation. Like, there was a time when I had to choose between closing my language school leader or continuing it. And I decided to close it eventually, because I knew that the effort, the time, the money that I would spend on bringing it to its former glory, let's say, that would be too much. I would rather focus it on the school. So I decided to stop it. And the bookshop, the coffee shop that I have, it's a very new thing. So, and it's not making money at the beginning. It's naturally because people stopped reading books, and coffee is not as popular in Bukhara yet as in other parts. But I understand that this is a prospective project, and I will keep it even if it doesn't make any money, even for some time. I'm fine with it. I'm fine even spending money on it, as long as, because I believe that in the future there will be a prospect. So when you say setback, what am I going to do if I see no way out? You have to take a step back and think, are you being emotional or are you being practical? If you are emotional and saying, oh, but this is my baby, this is my project, I started it, I cannot just give up on it, but it's not going anywhere, then it's wrong. You have to be practical in business. You have to know that if it's not making you money, even if it's the love of your life, that was your baby, you started it, you have to finish it. If it's affecting other areas of your business. So I would say I evaluate, I think, and if I see that it has a future, I continue working on it. I don't give up easily, because that's not what business should have. Like, you cannot give up just because of a setback. And you're gonna face that at some point in life. In this business, because you will want to move on to other things. What are you gonna do with this? That's gonna be your main, conundrum, let's say. For me, it was this. I loved the project because it helped me grow, but then I had to close it.
Right. So in a nutshell, you should try being rational.
Yes.
Try keeping emotion out of it.
Yes.
And bring yourself to do the right thing, to do what's expedient, what's necessary, even if it may not be the thing you want. It's the thing that needs to be done. Yeah, and not everyone has the ability to do that. Simply emotions get in the way.
Emotions get in the way, and I'm the perfect example. I should have stopped the project in 2020 when the pandemic hit. Everybody had suffered at that time. I tried to keep giving it oxygen, and I kept it until 2023. I hired some people to look after it, even though I couldn't. And I knew that it wasn't going well. And at that time, I let my emotions thinking, but it's my project. I started it. I had the best time at this language school. I had the best students and everything. So I'm going to keep it. I'm going to try to revive it. But I never had time for it anyway. And I didn't want to spend resources because my school was growing as well. So I had to put money there. So without spending any time, any resources, of course, my language school didn't grow. And I just kept it alive in a vegetable situation for 3 years, which was a problem for me. And then, as you said, I made a rational decision, and I decided that it's not going anywhere. Why do I need to do it? I have other projects that I'm passionate about, so I'm going to work on them.
So speaking of projects, you said you have a bunch of side projects you're involved in, like TEDx, right? Is that what you call it?
Yeah.
So what is it like? Is it where people come on the stage and give a speech about their profession, their subject?
Well, TED Talks. Ideas worth sharing. That's what the motto is. It's a platform for people to talk about something they're passionate about, talk about something new, something... they have different areas of things you can talk about. Like one of them is, what is your solution to a current problem? Or what is your idea about something that nobody has heard of, or something like that. And this is a very good platform for you to go on stage, to talk about your idea and be known to the whole world. Because if you're on the stage, the TED uploads it to YouTube on its channel, which is very watchable, and on its website.
On their official channel?
Yes.
With like millions of subscribers?
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
No way.
Yes.
That's a great opportunity.
Yes.
So what's the eligibility criteria for coming on the stage and on TEDx?
Well, that's a good way for me to advertise it. Well, it's not advertise it, to market it.
We're actually going to leave the link to that
Yeah.
website in the description box so people can go and check it out.
Yes,
Interested.
because we started the speaker application and we set the deadline for March 25. We may put it March 30, we'll see, but for now it's March 25. The eligibility is if you have a great idea and you can talk about it, because it's not just the idea, it's the performance as well, because it's how you deliver the idea. If you have those two things, you're eligible. Because we already have a couple of people, even from other countries, willing to pay for everything themselves and come here just to talk on the stage. So that's an exciting opportunity for anyone in Bukhara to go on stage and talk. And it's very good for young people, because if you have a TED talk on your resume, on your CV, it's good for universities, because they will say, wow, he's been active. And you're going to be, as you mentioned, on a channel with millions of people. So you're going to be there. Anytime you want to send a link, it will be there.
And sorry for asking this question, but just for the record, you have to speak English, right?
Yes.
No Uzbek, no Russian, no Tajik.
For now, we are doing only English.
English.
I wanted to do Uzbek or Russian. Logistically, it's a bit difficult right now because it all comes to financing. Right now, I'm financing it myself, which is still a lot of money to organize the whole event for 100 people, to organize coffee breaks and stage and everything. It's going to cost you some money. And logistically, it will be more difficult because you have to provide translations and subtitles into English anyway if you're speaking any other language. And for that, I need to hire some professional. I can't do it myself. You need to have a professional translator.
You can use AI to do that. There are AI tools online.
It's not going to be as good. And while you and I are excited about the possibilities of AI, a lot of people hate it because it's like TED. I know because we had a webinar the other day. They hate the use of AI in preparation for your talk because they think that it should come from you, and AI is naturally soulless.
But I didn't mean the preparation. I meant the translation part after you shoot the
It's not gonna translate it well. You still have to edit it, and we can do it, and I want to do it every year, Ted. I've been doing it every 2 years because of my work, but now I want to do it every year. So 2025 we will have it. Then we can have it in at least 2 languages, like Uzbek and English, even if not Russian.
Yeah, it sounds very exciting for all people wanting to give a speech on stage. Yeah, that's a good opportunity, guys. Yeah.
Yes, it is. It is amazing because you don't know how you are until you get on the stage. I myself have a hard time talking on the stage, and it changes you. As soon as you go there once or twice on the stage, when you see hundreds of people looking at you, and you have to engage them for 15 minutes, let's say, for TED it's up to 18 minutes. It is not easy to engage the audience for 15 minutes with something you're talking about, because they will be bored if they're not interested. They've heard better stories than yours 5 minutes ago. So you have to be a good performer with a good idea. And it's good practice for you.
Yeah. It's a great challenge for those people wanting to improve their public speaking skills. Yeah. Guys, you should go for it. And if you're interested about this project, we're going to leave the link in the description box below, and you can check it out and see if you are cut out to be a public speaker. All right. Now, what do you say now we move on to the final chapter of the podcast where we talk about your personal life, your hobbies.
Hobbies.
So, what do you find yourself doing? And I know it sounds like a ridiculous question because you don't have time, but what do you find yourself doing when you're not busy managing a school or being involved in these projects? So, are you into reading books? Do you watch movies, or do you have any favorite podcasts you listen to?
It's probably TV shows. I don't have as much time or as much energy to read a book as much. Like I do sometimes, but not often enough, because you get tired and you just want to relax. So I watch a lot of TV shows.
Like, what are your top favorites?
Top favorites? It's a tough one because I've watched like thousands of them.
Well, what's the one you're watching right now?
Oh, right now I'm watching Halo. It's a TV show based on a game, and there was a.
There's actually a video game called Halo 2.
Yeah. It's a TV show based on that, and it's a very good TV show. So I'm watching that. I'm watching like 3-4 at the same time. There's a new one on Netflix called Gentleman. It's a British dark humor thing.
It's like Peaky Blinders.
Yeah, very very close. But probably my top TV show would be House. I loved House.
Dr. House.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Because of his witty conversations, he's smart, and he's so liberal-minded, and he's just One of a kind.
I love his humor. Not his humor, like humor on the TV show, because it's witty, it's smart. It's not too dumbed down. But I watched a lot of TV shows. Like I watch almost every TV show that comes from comic books, like Marvel and DC. I almost watch all of them if they're not too ridiculous. But in terms of favorite, it's more serious ones, more something British also is good. I think that's about it. Yeah.
What's one movie that had a profound impact on you?
It's two movies. I can't choose one between them.
Okay, sure.
It's Matrix and Lord of the Rings.
The Matrix.
Yes.
So what about The Matrix? So why do you like Matrix so much? And the mic, you might want to speak closer to them.
So for Matrix, it's two things. One, it came out when I was a kid. So it had a very profound effect because it was it was a hit movie. But also the meaning, the idea, because I don't like conspiracy theories, but I love the idea of possibility that we live in a simulation. It is a very entertaining possibility. I'm not saying I believe that, but it is very interesting to consider that there is a tiny possibility that we're all in a simulation. And the Wachowskis, they were brothers and now they're sisters, but the Wachowskis, the directors of the movie, and they gave a lot of thought. They have a lot of references in the movie to different religions, philosophies. It's blinded by the fight scenes because everybody thinks Matrix is just a fight movie. It's a kung fu movie. It's not. It is there, but that's made for people to watch. Behind it, there is a lot of philosophy in Matrix. And if you have seen it a long time ago, if you rewatch it by keeping this in mind, you'll see that it's
like a real mental war. That's what's going on. It's a mental battle.
Yeah. Everything, if you pay attention to every reference in the movie, you'll see that it's like Alice and in Wonderland. There is a reference to that. There is a reference to Bible. There is a reference to simulation theory and everything. So that's one. The second is The Lord of the Rings. And I love that book because I love Tolkien, the author. I love the movies. And I even did my master's thesis on Lord of the Rings.
Unbelievable. You did your master's on a movie.
On movie and the book, yeah. I was fight between good and evil. Again, the philosophy behind it, how corrupt everyone is. Like, how easily corrupted a person can be. And Lord of the Rings is, it's on the top there for a lot of people. Even in most books, it's everywhere in 100 top 10 books, Lord of the Rings. So, if you haven't watched it, I know it's very long. It's like 12 hours if you watch all of them, but it's worth it.
Who's your favorite comic book character?
Oh, that's tough.
DC, Marvel?
I'm a DC guy.
Okay.
I'm a DC guy. And probably it's between Superman and Manhattan.
Dr. Manhattan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Again,
because they are invincible? Is that because they are super powerful?
Yes. Yeah, probably. I love them because the kid in me thinks about how unbeatable they are. Because I could say Batman, but that would be a lie.
You ever watched the Man of Steel, Superman, directed by Zack Snyder?
I have.
Starring Henry Cavill.
Yes, I have.
There is a scene in that movie that deeply resonates with me. And every time I'm facing a setback, I kind of see that character in me. There's a scene where he's at school. It's his first day. And because he's Superman, he has these super senses. So he can hear people's heart beating. He can hear the sound of ring buzzing from miles away. And he's so shocked. He's just super freaked out.
I remember.
And then the teacher comes up to him and asks what's wrong, and then he doesn't know what to say, and then he rushes out of the classroom to the locker room, and he locks himself, and everyone wonders what's wrong with that kid. Everyone thinks it's super weird, right? And then the mom comes and tries to calm him down, but the door is locked. And then the mom asks, "What's wrong, kitty?" And then he says, "The world is too big, Mom."
Yeah.
And then the mom says, "Then make it small. Think of it as an ocean, and there's an island, and that's my voice. Do you see it?
Yeah.
Swim towards it, honey."
Yeah, I remember
that was so profound. Just keep going back to that scene.
It is.
Every time when I feel overwhelmed and I feel like the world is too big, I think of myself as Superman. I'm in that locker room, and I have to find that island and swim toward it.
And it's interesting because, yes, sometimes we have conversations with different people, and sometimes I joke and say that the world is huge and we are infinitesimal. Like, we're nothing in comparison to the world and to the history of the world. And then I remember another book that I love is actually something you should check it out. It's called The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Mm-hmm. Actually, Elon Musk recently tweeted about it when he released his AI tool, Gork.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Yeah, he tweeted about it. Hitchhiker's Map to the Galaxy.
Guide to the Galaxy.
Guide to the Galaxy.
It's a 5-book
series.
It's a series by Douglas Adams. He was a science fiction writer, but he was a scientist himself. And there is a moment, and it's not going to take long, but I'm going to say this. So there is a moment in the book where there is a punishment that they use to make people turn into vegetables, like lobotomize them, let's say. So what they do is they show your place in the universe. And because it is so small, you feel so depressed, and you just feel like you don't matter, and you become a vegetable. So they use this punishment for everyone. And there is this adorable character that he loves himself so much. And when they try this on him, he will feel even more pride in himself. Because he will say, there are so many things in the world, and I still exist. Mm-hmm. Which means I am more important than I thought I am. Mm-hmm. So you see, it's about perspective. If you think about the fact that, oh, you're so small in the world and you don't matter, then you don't matter. But if you think about it, there are so many things around you in the world, and you're still here, so there is a purpose to this, and that you even matter more than you think you do. Because right now, as teachers, that's the most important thing. You change so many lives. Nobody changes so many lives as a teacher. Nobody has that. Doctors, they see you once or twice in your life. Policemen, they see you once or twice, unfortunately, if there is a bad case. But teachers are the people that change so many lives on a daily basis, which is amazing. In 30 years of teaching, you can change thousands of lives. So this role, that's why I really think teaching is rewarding. I know the pay sucks, but the job itself, it's amazing how many lives you touch. And if you're good at it, if you're kind, if you're not too cocky about it, then you can change a lot of lives. And I think as tutors, we even have a better chance, because kids want to come here, they want to learn. At schools, it's a bit different, but here, they fall in love with us. I don't mean in that way, in a romantic way. I mean, they fall in love, they become their idols, and we change their lives. That's a major thing. Nobody else does it.
Yeah, that's even more incentive for people to take up teaching, if they want to do more good in the world.
Yes.
Yeah,
I think so.
That's so deep. There's so much wisdom and knowledge, and I'm sure I'm going to be leaving this podcast with so much more. And I'm so happy that I had this conversation with you today. And I have 3 more questions I want to ask you before we wrap this up. So number 1 is your personal philosophy on life. So what's your North Star? What's the thing that guides you in life? What's the thing that gets you up in the morning? Are you someone who is trying to do genuinely good? Or are you the bad guy trying to be good?
That's very subjective. I can't say that I'm good, like, because there's always mistakes that I make. But probably I want to change things. That's why I'm working in education. I try to improve the education system any way I can. I don't run away when there is a problem. So probably what keeps me waking up in the morning, is that I have a chance to do something better. It doesn't mean that I'm doing always the right thing. I make mistakes. It's natural. And sometimes I have to be bad, unfortunately. But generally, I believe that I do this because I want to improve the system. That's probably it.
Yeah. And how does it feel to be your age?
Jokes aside, I'm really glad to right now at the age I am, because I'm not taken too lightly and I'm not taken too seriously. I know I'm 35, so it's fine. I'm in the middle of my life, so I'm in a perfect place.
And what advice would you give your 25-year-old self? Because there's a 10-year age difference between us. You said you're 35 and I'm 25. So if you could go back in time by some miracle, what advice would you give your 25-year-old self?
Don't be afraid to make mistakes. And don't take that life too seriously. If we are very dramatic when we're young, especially when we're teenagers, but as growing up it becomes less, but we're very dramatic sometimes. We think, oh, that's all, that's the end of life. That's not. We're taking things too seriously. That's probably would be, don't take life too seriously and don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Be bold. Just go for it.
Be bold. I don't remember whose words it was, but it was like, I don't remember, somebody famous said it. Be bold. Somebody said it. And it's a very interesting thing.
I'm really glad I made that change at the beginning of this year. I was actually too afraid to start this podcast because I thought I was going to suck at it. But then I realized my first 100 podcasts are going to suck anyway. So why not just do it?
No, I mean, if I had $1 for everyone that told me not to open a school, I'd have a lot of money. Everybody thought like it's not gonna work. People are not ready for private education, like private schools, and it's tough. It's gonna be difficult, and so on and so forth. It's not worth it. But yeah, as you said, you should be bold.
All right, that was so much fun talking to you today. I had a blast. I don't know if you guys enjoyed this talk, but I'm going to be leaving this podcast with so much wisdom and knowledge and insights and perspectives. And I again want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming here on the show today, because I know how busy you are, and it means a lot to me you taking the time to come here today. So
thank you.
Do you have any final comments you'd like to make before we end this?
Probably the most important thing for me is, as I said, projects. If we want to do things better in Bukhara, if we want to be even half of what Tashkent is, I mean, in terms of projects, we have to be bold. We have to try new things. And I hope that people like you will also join this venture, and we will organize other things, not just TED, but marathons in all different areas, like marathons, conferences, different kinds of events, tech events. We don't have tech events in Bukhara practically. And if we do those things, I think it's going to be a little more interesting to live here.
Yeah, I'm totally down. Sign me up. I'm down on that.
Okay.
And then other projects you have, we're going to leave links to all his projects in the description box, so you guys can go and check them out. And again,
Thank you.
thanks a lot for coming on the show
No
today.
problem. Thank you.
All right, guys, hope you enjoyed today's episode. And if you liked our content, please leave us thumbs up and subscribe. Don't forget to hit that notification bell. And if you have any comments, please leave them in the comment section below. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
What?